Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Force here with some more Warlords of Draenor coverage. Today I'm going to take you through the Bloodmaul Slag Mines. This is an early leveling dungeon. I believe the level range is between 90 and 95. Specifically, a lot of the mobs in here are level 91. So if you come in here like a 91, 92, you should pretty much be all set and good to go. Now, the point of this video is I'm going to just take you through a run. I'm going to talk with you about some of the trash mobs. I'm going to talk with you, touch on some of the boss mechanics briefly, and just show you what a full run is like, either if you haven't done this dungeon yet, or if you're not even playing Warlords of Draenor and you're just interested in seeing, hey, what are the dungeons looking like in this expansion? Hopefully this video is going to give you a good guide to it. This is pretty much not edited. There are a couple of short edits. I think I've got 2 short edits in here that are just cutting down some running time between one boss and the next. But beyond that, you're going to see all the trash we cleared and you're going to see all the boss fights. Now, the reason I mention this is because you'll notice the length of the video. It was this like 15 minutes or so. I would say the average run, sans those minutes or 30 seconds to a minute worth of cuts that we have in here. This run took like around 16 minutes. But I would say the average run is about 20 minutes, plus or minus, depending on your group. Now, I happen to get lucky. In this particular run, my group had some absolutely insane DPS. I mean, we were just tearing through the boss fights. A lot of the bosses would only go through a phase one time, where in other runs, they'd go through a phase multiple times, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get up to the first boss. All right, so let's talk about some of this trash here. Really hasn't been too concerning. The biggest concern is that big crush ability from those Bloodmaul enforcers, the guys with the maces. They're gonna put this little cone on the ground, and after I think like 2.5 or 3 seconds, they're smashed down and it deals a bunch of damage. So if you're within range of that, avoid it. If you're the tank, try to face it away from your group. Yeah, and then we've got these guys. These big guys here with the maces, they summon an AoE fear ability. And then we've got these casters here. All of the casters, mind you, their spells can be interrupted. Their buffs on their allies or their debuffs on your characters, your team, can be dispelled. So whether you're interrupting as a tank or a DPS, or whether you're the support, the healer, either be dispelling or trying to interrupt that stuff, because most of it can be taken care of without much consequence. In fact, this entire dungeon as a whole, it wasn't hard, but I'll touch on that and sort of why I think that is right after we finish up this boss fight. So here we are on the first boss. This is the Slave Watcher Crush 2. He's got a few mechanics to make note of. The first one that we're going to see is his Earth Crush mechanic, in which he will focus on a target and kick up rocks in a direction. So you can avoid that if he's facing towards you, or you can just face tank it like our group is. Then he's got this Ferocious Yell, which is going to increase, it's going to buff him up. That can be interrupted, so if your group's on top of it, you can interrupt it. Here's another Earth Crush, kicks it in the line. You can see though my group just says, I'll just take it, I'll just tank the damage. And then he does this stomp where he's going to knock everyone back, and then he leaps towards a random target. And then at that point, he's going to summon these slaves who will fixate on that target. So as the group DPS, once these slaves come up, and when you're the tank, you want to taunt them up, and you want to DPS them down as quickly as you can, and then work on finishing up the boss. Now, as I said earlier, this group was insane. The DPS in this group was awesome. In all other runs that I've ever had, he's gone through that knockback and leap phase, followed by summoning slaves, at least 2, if not 3 to 4 times. But this group, he only did it once, and before the slaves even died, we had killed the boss. So this group's working through this stuff a little bit quicker than you can expect to see, I would say, on the average run. Of the 7 runs that I've done this far, this was by far the fastest. Like, no doubt, this was the quickest run that we managed to see. So yeah, here we go in this group. We've got the big crush dude who's going to slam that on the ground. A couple of the sword guys that will buff themselves up for increased damage, so you want to work them down. Now we're making our way onto the second boss right now. which is Magma Ladas, and I would say that he is probably the most difficult. The trash leading up to him and the boss fight himself is probably the most difficult encounter in this dungeon. But on the way there, we do actually have a little mini boss coming up out of these lava pits. This is Slagna, and pretty simple. You know, you go up and tank DPS and just avoid these spits. There's this little lava spit. It'll shoot out at you if you can avoid it and not take the damage. Good idea. So I said earlier that this was pretty easy, and I wanted to just sort of explain to you why I'm even bringing this up. Yes, it's just a leveling dungeon, and the idea is likely that Blizzard is saying, well, we just want to expose you to this so that you know what it is when we do the heroic version at max level. That makes sense. But I went into here with no tanking gear from last expansion. I think I had like a couple of item level 470 blue tanking pieces, and then I've got blue pieces that I picked up while leveling up. I did not die once in the 7 runs that I've done. Not a single time. Not even my first run through, not knowing any of the fights. I haven't had a single death. So I just wanted to share that with you. But again, it's probably because we're just being introduced to these dungeons for the heroic versions. Alright, so we've got a bunch of trash here. These small little magma dudes, these searing embers. And then we've got these 2 elementals. Now, we want to focus on the vengeful magma elemental first, because he will actually summon more of those searing embers. With that little splash there that you see, you can see more searing embers popped up. So ideally, he is the one that you'd want to focus down first, and then the Molten Earth Elemental, who does a cleave with a dot effect. Then we're going to make our way through more of these Searing Embers. I mean, these guys, they're just throwaway. They're very easy to take care of. It's not even remotely a problem. Just do some AoE, take care of them. And then we've got the second big elemental, the Magma Lord. He has these 2 little furnaces to the left and right of him, in which we'll constantly get searing embers coming out of them. In addition to that, we will also get this lava tornado. You see that to the right and back of him. It's moving around. Just try to avoid that. And then we've got another group over here, and another one of these vengeful magma elementals, which again, these are the guys who summon searing elementals with their slams here. So there it is, more searing elementals come up. Now, one of the biggest dangers is actually this next trash pack. This is the one that in other groups I've had to blow my defensive cooldowns on. So we've got these 3 mobs here, one of which is an elemental, and then a caster, and then the big dude there with the hammer. So he's going to do, they've got the AoE Fear. The caster has like this lava burst, which will do a crap ton of damage. There's that frightening roar, which you can interrupt, so try to do so. But look at how low I got. In a lot of other runs, I've had to blow defensive cooldowns on this fight, where a lot of times I haven't even had to on the boss itself. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the boss fight itself. Main boss here is Magma Ladas, but first we engage this guy, Forge Master Gogda. He's going to summon up a couple of elementals to assist him, and when they pop up, ideally you're just going to want to DPS them down right away. So here is the first one. This guy does like an AoE frontal cone, and then we've got the Calamity dude who he's going to shoot out fire and stuff. So you can see the AoE frontal cone. Now my group, again, the DPS was crazy, so they were able to kill off the Forge Master before even working on the ads. But it's a good idea to get rid of those ads first, if you can, because now you can see they're here while the main boss is here, and that's no good. So the biggest concern with the main boss is his big AoE stun that he does all around him. It's gonna summon up every few seconds. There's again, this is more difficult than it had to be because we left those 2 ads up as we moved on to the second phase. So try not to do that. Again, we don't die, but so that big AoE crush there. Don't stand in that when that happens if you're melee DPS or the tank. It does some pretty significant damage, and it's going to stun you as well. Now he will also periodically summon ads as well, just like the first boss. So you will get more and more ads coming out the longer the fight goes on. In some instances of this run, I've had him summon, I think, in the vicinity of like 4 or 5 additional ads if it just keeps going on. All right, and there was a little cut there. We're just back. This is where we faced that lava spitter, and now that firewall is down for the 3rd boss, and we've got these ads right here. These are the ads that do the crushing on the ground, so avoid that. You can see I just did my seismic slam there to stun them all. And then we've got shadow bolts coming out of these casters and other spells. So interrupt them, dispel them if they hit you, all that stuff. Avoid the crash, or crush, whatever the hell it's called. The font is so small on my UI, I can barely read what it says. But yeah, just work these guys down. It's just a group of 4 that gets summoned after you kill Magma Ladas. And now we are on to the third boss, which is Roltall. This is a fun boss fight. Pretty straightforward though, pretty easy. He's got 3 things that he does. So you're gonna run up, you're gonna tank him. You're not going to move him around or anything, but then after a couple of seconds into the fight, he's going to throw down these boulders. And he throws down 3 boulders, starting off with 1, and then 2, and then 3. And you'll notice an indicator before they come down in their position. So just move around, make sure, you know, try to avoid getting hit. Also, don't fall off the bridge because you will just die. And then after that phase, now he puts this burning stuff on the... Oh, he does this... Okay, he does this phase... We killed him so fast, I couldn't even. So that right there, after the rocks, he does that thing where he's blowing this searing wind at everybody and knocking everybody, or slowly pushing everyone back. So you just want to keep walking forward while you DPS him. And then after that, he's going to put these like burning embers on the ground that you just don't want to stand on. Again, try to avoid standing in the fire. But that's basically it. It's so funny, this group, we're just burning, like you literally did not get to see the third phase of what he does, and then he just keeps repeating those things. He does more boulders, he does the searing wind, and then he does more burning embers on the ground. All right, we've got a couple of ads right before the last boss here, which is Gugrock is the last boss. You just want to get these guys together. I believe they can't be CC'd. I don't think they can be stunned. That could be wrong. They do some slam damage like that on the ground, so just be careful when you're melee DPS to try to not take too much damage. And if you can try to guess when those things are going to come down as the tank, you know, do some defensive stuff if at all possible. Oh, he did get stunned. Okay, maybe what I read that they couldn't get CC'd, but maybe that just meant like saps and stuff. I don't know. The stun obviously just worked because I just stunned that dude. Unless I'm like going absolutely insane. I could be though. That's entirely possible. All right. And then we've got an ogre to the left and a group of 3 right in front of the boss. You can technically take all of these guys at once. I guess decided to just do one at a time. They do this channeling flames ability, in which they will channel flames just like that. So it's good if you can to try to face that away from the group as the tank, but he's also going to pick someone at random, it appears. So we're going to grab this group of 3 here. And as I group them up, I'm going to try to keep them away from the group, but okay, and they can be stunned as well, like, as you can see. So yeah, try to stun them, CC them if you can, and avoid these big flame cones. But I believe they do fixate on a target. It looks like right there. I mean, I had aggro on these guys, but he was channeling flames in a completely different direction than what I was. So it does seem like he's just going to fixate on a target. And they also do this exploding thing, in which they'll put that ball of flames on someone. Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to avoid, but yeah, yeah. I think the best thing to do there would be to make sure everyone's facing in the same direction and then just move when they all do their channel flames. So like line up as a group. All right, here we are on the last boss, Gugrock. Gugrock buffs himself with this Molten Core ability whenever he's allowed to cast this Molten Blast. So if you can interrupt that Molten Blast, it's good. He's also going to put this burning stuff on the ground, and that stuff will stay on the ground. So you want to try to make sure, the longer the fight goes on, the sort of worse that becomes. And then the last special thing that he will do is he summons guys that will make their way towards these furnaces, these unstable slags. If they are given the time to go to those furnaces, they will get buffed up, dealing a bunch of damage or something like that. But that's the fight. That's it. Again, my group's DPS was crazy. So you like barely got to see some of the boss mechanics. But hopefully I explained it enough for you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching, taking a look at the slag mines here in Warlords of Draenor. Stay tuned for more coverage coming up. Have a good afternoon, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep watching, and keep owning.